voters. That's what's mattering to the democracy. Equal votes from equal citizens. To describe the solution to this problem is not hard. So then why don't we have the solution? Why don't we have political movements to push for this solution? Now, the political experts tell us the reason is most people don't care about it. Most people look at this corruption and they're okay with it, or they're okay with it relative to other issues they want to fight about. And I don't think that's actually true. And the evidence for this comes from a series of studies. The most recent we did was in December of 2013. We asked the public, how important is it to you that we reduce the influence of money in politics? The answer was 96% of Americans said it was important. 96%. But the very next question we asked was, how likely do you think it is that we'll reduce the influence of money in politics? The answer is 91% said it was not likely. So just like most of us wish we could fly like Superman, at least 96% of us, but because at least 91% of us are convinced we can't, we don't throw ourselves off of tall buildings regularly, we accept, we are resigned to our human mortal status, and we live life the way one would, assuming you can't fly from the ground or from tall buildings. So too with this corruption, we accept it. We don't organize to do anything about it because we believe there's nothing that can be done. We have added to Ben Franklin's slogan, there's nothing is certain but death and taxes, by adding, and a corrupt government. These elements are taken for granted. That means the question here is, how do we resist this resignation? What's the strategy for fighting resignation? The problem is not convincing people there's a problem. The problem is convincing people there's a solution that could actually be adopted. So what is it that we could do for that? Well, as many of you know, because I'm sure many of you were supporters, at the beginning of the year, in March, we announced we were going to launch something called the Mayday Project. Mayday as in the distress signal, saying we were going to be a Mayday for this democracy. And the objective of this Mayday Project was to be a kind of super PAC to end all super PACs. The question was, what would it take to run a series of campaigns that would eventually win a Congress committed to fundamental reform? And we would fund that amount initially by kickstarting, sort of. You can't really kickstart political campaigns, but kickstart in the sense of contingently fund this amount to run this experiment. So kickstart a certain amount from the bottom up and then get as much of that matched from the top down as we could, with the ultimate objective of winning a Congress committed to fundamental reform. And so the plan we laid out was to run a pilot in 2014, and then based on the success of that pilot, a campaign to win in 2016, and then to push legislation in 2017, and then in 2019 to prepare to protect it by passing whatever constitutional reforms would be needed to defend it against the Supreme Court. And in the first stage, we were able to raise $11 million from more than 57,000 contributors around the country. Yeah, that's the good news. With the objective to elect candidates committed to this fundamental reform. Now the truth is, with that as the objective, the project was a bust. Because out of the 8 candidates we supported, 2 won. Only one of those races was really